Hello and welcome to GatherVerse AI Summit 2026. And what an incredible fireside chat with Tanya and Christopher. And I've got obviously an amazing list of panelists here today. And what we're going to talk about is governance, trust, and accountability. Who is AI answerable to? This is a very, very important discussion and has been discussed on numerous roundtables already. So if I could just ask everyone to have the microphones muted when people are speaking, so that obviously there's no disturbance or feedback or anything like that. I do sometimes notice that. But anyway, what I want to do is get everyone to quickly introduce yourselves. So 30 seconds to 60 seconds, just tell people who you are. And then once we've gone around the table, then obviously we'll get into the questions. So we'll start off with Beth, then we go to Ona, then we go to Anisha, Faith, and then Vazumitha. So Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you for having me. I'm a former CTO and co-founder of AI Between Worlds, where we help founders, solopreneurs, creatives really develop that clarity and alignment that they need to easily adopt AI solutions and their workflows. And so really excited to talk about this topic and hear what everyone else has to say too. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Beth, and welcome to GatherVerse as well. Ona, welcome. Please tell me if I'm saying your name wrong. Am I saying your name wrong?
No, that is okay. It's like in English, honor. So
honor. Okay, honor.
Yeah, so similar. So no worries. You're good at it. So thank you very much, Russell. Very lovely to meet all of you. This is Honor. I'm both engineer and lawyer. I started my career as a cybersecurity engineer in PwC and then KPMG and then Microsoft. So from AI side, now I am non-exec director and managing partner at 6 different companies. All of them is basically AI, cybersecurity, and privacy. So I am. There are lots of roles actually, but basically it's just like that.
What's your main one?
Yeah, I'm lecturing at 3 different universities right now. I'm an alumni of University of Cambridge. So basically, I am giving lectures about cybersecurity and AI governance at that point. So maybe we can summarize everything like that. So, and hi from Dublin. I'm joining from Dublin to you.
Honor, by the way, I'm also going to be speaking at Cambridge University in September. Yeah. So I'm glad to see another local person kind of thing. I know you're in Dublin, but you're still local on the UK map at least. So
lovely then. Lovely to meet you.
Welcome as well. Anisha, please introduce yourself, and also welcome to GatherVerse, and it's great to have you with us. And also, if you just want to unmute your microphone, there should be like a little microphone button down the bottom. You can unmute that, so then you can speak.
Hi, Russell. Hi, everyone. So I am a big data engineer. So I have been working in fintech for quite a while, started my career off as a big data engineer. And also, I am also building something on the side, which is it's still in stealth mode. So where I'm trying to build something, a next generation predictive service for national resilience, where we are gathering data from multiple sources like NASA, NOAA, and FEMA.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to build. And my main, I also do some research as well, where I actually research on algorithmic AI and algorithmic governance in high stakes environments, and trying to write a book as well. So yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're writing a book? Well, quickly tell us what's your book.
It's still in ongoing phase. So I am trying to write a book on how agentic AI can help emergency response capabilities on a national level.
Well, thank you for joining us, Anisha, and thank you for sharing your book as well. Faith, please introduce yourself, and also welcome to GatherVerse.
Thank you. My name is Faith Katua. I'm joining in from Kenya, Africa.
Oh.
I'm an advocacy director in ISACA. ISACA is a global organization, but with different chapters across the globe. I also work with the electricity generating company in Kenya as the IT auditor and cybersecurity expert, and also as a data privacy advisor. Currently, I'm also advising and helping the ISACA Global to, come up with the certifications and also the questions for testing the AI audit, advanced AI audit. Currently, I'm an advanced AI audit certified. And I've been working closely also with the government in terms of giving advisory on the policies locally and the strategies in regards to AI. Thank you, and I'm glad to be.
Thank you for joining us, Faith, and very important work that you're doing. And last but not least, Vasumita. Is that how you say your name? I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yes, it's actually correct. It's Vasumita.
Vasumita. That?
Vasumita, yes.
Okay.
That's my name.
Can I call you Vasu? Is that okay?
Yes, it's all right.
Okay, amazing. So Vasu, please introduce yourself.
So, namaste, good morning, and good midnight from India, ladies and gentlemen. I'm KVS Vasumita, currently at the final level of the Chartered Accountant and Cost Management Accountant qualifications, trained under the largest professional accounting body in the world, ICAI, and the largest cost and management accounting body in Asia, the ICMAI. I was recognized among the top 15 speakers at the ICAI's National Talent Search 2024. And I've been honored to be selected among 8.5 lakh students nationwide. And I've spoken across national platforms too. This is my first international conference, and I'm genuinely very excited to be a part of this discussion. And I truly look forward to learn from the industry leaders and contribute my perspective on it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Vasu, and glad to have you with us for your first time on the first international speaking. That deserves a round of applause. So thank you for joining us, Vasu. And last but not least, I will introduce myself. My name is Russell. I'm the co-founder at Just Verify, also Director of Global Affairs at GatherVerse. And at Just Verify, we're focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. We're making AI trust measurable in a nutshell. And we believe basically on verifying and trusting. So basically earning your trust rather than just blindly trusting any sort of AI. And our long-term mission is to verify the integrity and trustworthiness on any AI model, no matter if it's a tool, an agent, a model, doesn't matter what it is. You need to know a way to be able to trust it. So, and you decide yourself, of course. So anyway, that's for me in a nutshell. Now we're going to go into the roundtable discussion of governance, trust, and accountability. Who is AI answerable to? Is it human? Is it another AI? Well, let's begin the discussion. The first question is, what does trust in AI mean across different cultures? I have a very interesting personal opinion on that, but I'm not going to put my input just yet because I want to hear what you guys have to say. So Beth, we'll start with you and then we'll go over to Ona after. So Beth, over to you.
Great. I look forward to hearing your perspective too, and everyone else's. My perspective is that it's really about where things break first and how that impacts the various culture, right? So in some culture, for example, if there's a privacy leak, that's going to be more impactful. Or if there's a fairness leak, that might be a different culture, or where like a surveillance leak. So it really kind of depends on where it breaks and how that impacts the culture. And then who's responsible for that break, for that harm. And again, that goes back to who is it accountable to?
Yes.
My perspective is it's always going to be who has deployed the tool, not necessarily the end user, but who's actually operating the tool. So,
sorry, I don't want to jump in.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. First of all, I do agree with you, Beth. Any sort of harm is definitely not. But I mean, when we're talking about trust, the trust really has one definition, okay? And trust is basically the belief and the abilities, capabilities, and truth of what an AI does, right? So it's basically about the reliability in terms of how reliable it is, the capabilities in terms of what it can do, right? Is it constantly capable and what it's supposed to do? And also, is it truthful in a nutshell? So by that one definition, right, that's a universal definition. However, there are interpretations in which people, different cultures have from that, right? So it would be different in different cultures, so to speak, from that standpoint. But the one universal definition and of, I would say, the true definition really is that in a nutshell, and those three areas in which it does. So that's my personal opinion. You guys could disagree with me or whatever, but I want to bring in Ona, and I do apologize if I'm getting your name wrong because it's a difficult name to say.
That is very okay. So, honor, whatever you want to add. That is
cool. Well, thank you for your understanding, first of all.
Generally British and Irish people very easily call my name, but you are struggling, but no worries.
Okay, it must be just me then. There we go.
No worries, Russell. Actually, I like your definition. You're so right. Maybe we can start with that. You know that there are some universal definitions around the world. If we are calling about numbers and the engineering things, whenever, just go and ask people. You're generally getting the same answer from them. But trust, privacy, or democracy, that kind of definitions, totally different around the world. So let's a little bit talk about trust then, because basically we are talking about trust. It is trust in AI is not just universal, it's contextual, we can say. So it is shaped by culture, it's shaped by history, regulation, and lived experience, we can say. So in some societies, trust comes from strong institutions and enforceable rights, we can say. In other, it comes from transparency, community oversight, or direct benefits. So that is why in Europe right now, in big tech companies or big business environment or from government hands, we always trying to call it trustworthy AI. If you're saying trustworthy AI, it means that you can find real responsibility, liability, literacy, human rights, and of course the governance aspects on the top of that. So that is why if we are saying something about trust in AI right now, we should turn our face and just trying to understand, is it really transparent for us to understand what is going on in the systems or not? Or maybe we can say around Europe, especially in UK, nowadays we are just talking about X and Grok examples. The thing is, AI got really big abilities, and we are still trying to understand what kind of limits it has. So every day, with new kind of technology enhancements, our rules can be very corner-side, outside, we can say. So we're still struggling about trust, but mainly trust is a big difference between different continents, different cultures, different countries. So from European side, we are looking from a window, one angle, and just trying to understand all of the world from this angle. But if we're talking about AI around the world right now, lots of countries got really bad. For example, lack of internet issues, lack of source issues. But in here, we are talking about EU Chips Act, and we are talking about the strategical materials from Davos conversation. So we have total different angles. So if you're talking about trust from my perspective, I think it is one of the main fundamentals for democracy, like privacy. So if you can say, I trust my government, I trust our country's business environment about producing or implementing AI, yeah, you have trust. Well, the biggest question, do you trust?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. The fundamental thing is, though, that you're having a belief in something, like you're believing something, like you're believing to trust that person. And really, there needs to be fundamental verifiable evidence and metrics which can earn that trust, right? And be able to know what the AI is doing, right? That's the way in which we can see it's doing, through benchmarks and standards, through having the right safety and the ethics and all the other different parts within it. But it needs to be verified for that reason in order to know for it to earn your trust, as I like to say, right? Not just give your trust and say, okay, well, I will just blindly believe in AI. But the thing is, there's a lot of people that do that, though. But that's what I think, and that's why what we do at Just Verify is fundamentally so important, because we're doing the infrastructure and the foundation around it so that we can have what you're saying, the transparency and the accountability for that, so that we can then say, okay, Beth or Anisha or whoever, you choose who you want to trust based upon what we find out about the AI, and then you can then choose which one you want to trust. And same with the companies as well, right? When it comes to the operations, when it comes to the different workflows, etc. So
then just one thing, Russell, from engineering perspective, you're right. We are just talking about algorithms and metrics. From lawyer perspective, we generally putting rules and just trying to tick the box and understand if we are really aligned with all domains. But the main thing is in here. AI is not just for security professionals, privacy professionals, or ethicists. It's for everyone. And
exactly,
we cannot.
It needs to be universal.
Yeah, there are individual people around the world, and nobody has to understand every details about, or sharing white papers from legal base and every security aspects. That is why I'm saying all over the world, the things is just turning around that if you are feeling trust in the products, it means that loyalty as a client. So I totally agree with you, but after all,
well, we're adding the different inputs here, which is good. So thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah.
I do want to jump over to Lauren quickly, because obviously she's on the stage, and I don't know if she's frozen for whatever reason. No, I think she's frozen. So we'll jump over to Anisha now. So Anisha, the next question for you is as follows: what transparency is enough for users to trust AI systems? So we've just been talking about there. We've been talking about the different standards. We've been talking about different perspectives, different levels, etc. There's a multitude of kind of what's going on in this conversation. So Anisha, I'm very interested to hear your perspective on this, and from your own point of view as a data analysis in a nutshell.
Sure. So I think transparency is something which kind of builds the trust, right? What we're talking about. So, for example, if we have an AI system, and it depends, like for my personal experience, if I'm using an AI system for something like a bank loan or a credit card application, there the trust and transparency is basically the user should be like transparent, kept transparent to everything. So why, if their credit card application is declined, for example, the user should know why it was declined, and the user should be provided with some information which is actionable. So I feel that transparency is useful, like from the person who is actually building the AI system. It can be an AI agent, but when it's actually useful for a person, for a layman user, the AI system should come with disclosures and transparency that, okay, this is what it's going to perform, and this is what you're going to get, and this is the data that we are going to be using, so that the user feels comfortable sharing their data with the AI system, and also feels comfortable with using their personal information. And I think the AI systems or the AI models that we have in today's world should come with a disclosure that any user across all cultures should have like a fundamental right to know what the AI is doing. Another thing that I'd like to mention, that the user should also understand that if they're actually talking to an AI agent or they're talking to a human being. So I think that everyone who are actually building AI systems are doing a great job at actually disclosing that information. And people will trust the AI only if they are actually provided with insights, like what exactly is being used from their personal information. And it depends on high stakes AI systems. For example, if you're using AI for medical diagnosis, then I think transparency is really, really important in that situation. Whereas if you're using just AI for anything, suppose for just recommending a song, then transparency can be a little lower. But when you're using AI systems for high stakes environments, transparency is really, really important.
I completely agree with you. And if we're talking about like basic level, kind of stuff, which I mean, doing something even just simple as consent, right? Saying, do you approve this, right? Yes or no, or whatever it is, right? That's kind of like the style of it, from what you're saying. I guess my thought is, as we go into this year of 2026, right, we kind of advancing a lot more into agentics, right? Everyone's talking about agents, but what happens when we can't no longer prompt these models anymore, and they're all fully thinking for themselves, and let's go one step further, even they start talking in their own language, right? We can't even understand what they're saying.
Exactly.
So when we get to that point, is okay, well, how do we at that point then for it to earn our trust from that perspective? Again, we need a universal verification way in which to do that, right? And also a very transparent way in which we're able to do that too. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Anisha. And then also, if we throw in there robotics, if we throw in there fully autonomous vehicles, if we throw in there a bunch of other things, right, it starts getting very complicated, and you have all these different models, all these different agents, all these different things work on your behalf, and it's like, okay, well, at what point do I know which thing to trust, how do I choose, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, Nisha, and that's why, from a user's perspective, as like just a person using it for everyday use, they need to know a way in which how they can understand it and how they can use it. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Because I think there's a recent situation where the agents, like AI agents, have their own social network. And like I read upon an article that the AI agent was actually charges the user for some, I think $3,000 for something. And that's where trust comes in. Like, how do you trust the AI agent to act on your behalf? Like, not use the information that you don't want the AI agent to use. So I think that transparency is really important.
Completely agree. And thank you very much for sharing, Nisha. And it's been a privilege, actually, speaking with you about it. Same with Ona and Beth as well so far. But we're going to jump over to Faith now, because I'm curious to hear her input. Working with government levels, when we're talking about auditing, etc. These are very important parts to what we're doing within AI. So my question to you, Faith, is, how do we keep governance human-centered at scale? So when we're talking about, from your point of view, as working with public sector, right, and also when we're talking about auditing, how do we maintain that human-centered or centricity, so to speak, at scale, from your point of view?
Thank you. So from where I sit, keeping the governance definitely human-centered as AI scales is one of the most significant challenges from where I sit in our decade. And you bear with me that you agree with me that when systems process millions of decisions per second, then we lose that human touch. And because we are focusing on efficiency and optimization. Some of the mechanisms that we have been advocating from where we sit in terms of having the aspect of human in the loop when we are doing now the whole process of AI from development, deployment to the user, it's ensuring that we involve the human aspects in the whole process. And for instance, like in the Kenyan government, when you're developing the AI strategy, we normally have what we call public participation. Are we developing an AI tool that will feel like it's so artificial, so to say, or is it going to capture the human aspects from the perspective of the user, And to prevent this, definitely we have looked at it from the perspective of governance now must transition from the reactive policing, fixing things after they are already broken, to proactive design, when you're building human values into the code itself. At the development stage, are we bringing in the human aspect? Because this is a model that will develop, and at the end of it, you want it to interact with the human. How do we bring that aspect at the tail end? That will fail, because if you don't now consider it at the beginning, then that brings issues of hallucinations, detachment. For instance, when you're doing model for health diagnostics, and don't involve the aspect of the human in the loop, then this also affects in the safety of the patient, because it's a high-risk model as opposed to a model maybe to do with customer support. And these are some of the aspects that we have been looking at in terms of how do we keep this, governance human-centered at scale. And some of the principles maybe that we can leverage on is transparency and accountability, where data must definitely be open, by default, not necessarily every other technical aspect of the model or the source code to be, open, but transparency from the point of explainability. If I'm using this model, do I understand what, it means? Do I understand that this data that has been used to give me the prompt that I've given the tool, it was done maybe 2 years ago? Is it historical? Am I given information that this AI tool that you're using is an AI assistant tool, not a human that you're interacting with? That kind of transparency. And that is now where we need to capture the human in the loop aspect at the beginning and not at the tail end. So from where I sit, for me, it's a continuous learning perspective where we are treating governance, as an evolving process and not as a final document.
You bring up a very interesting use case, Faith, when we're talking about healthcare, and and as Anisha was saying before, it does start at the data level, right? When you're inputting the correct data, and when it comes to the human value side of things, I guess when it comes to those sort of specific sectors, like we talk about finance, when we talk about healthcare, when we talk about even government sector, I would say you need the right compliance in place and the regulations in place to obviously order to do that, but and also you still need the right governance too. I just think it's like, how do we kind of going forward, how do we maintain like these AIs, as how Christopher said before, when we're talking about vibe coding, for example, what happens when the vibe coder is no longer needed because it can vibe code itself, right? So when we're talking about stuff like that, it's like, okay, how do we make sure that these systems continuously have humanity centric, right? And also, how do we still keep human in the loop, so to speak, within that too? So it's a very complicated navigation that we're going, but I definitely agree with you, Faith. Like, we do need to keep human value centered and also within governance, but also how still keep human in the loop, so to speak. So thank you very much for sharing that, Faith. Vasyumitha, we're going to go over to you now. And my next question for you is, should AI systems be governed differently by sector? Like we were just talking about healthcare previously. So what are your thoughts on that?
True. I truly accept what you all have spoken. And if I've taken this from a student and a future professional's perspective, so I would like to start this with something simple. The same AI technology which we use in our daily life for song recommendations or preparing a resume or for approval of a loan, and in case of the healthcare sector, which is diagnosing a patient, these all might look similar, but in real life, the consequences are completely different. So, yes, it is true that AI systems should be governed differently by sector. And because as in the healthcare sector, trust is something that breaks very quickly, because doctors must explain and defend decisions to the patients on a continuous basis. And if an AI system can't explain why it flagged a particular patient or suggested a diagnosis, clinicians cannot responsibly rely on that particular thing. In that's why healthcare AI requires human oversight or meaningful explanations and clear responsibility when things go wrong. And when it comes to the hiring and the finance sector, people often get rejected without knowing that a particular AI has been involved. There was a recent case that took place that showed that candidates were denied access to AI generated assessments that really shaped their entire career. So this has led to not just bias, but an invisible decision making. So therefore, what I want to say is that one size fits all governance actually fails because there's lower risk systems get over-regulated and high risk systems get under-regulated. And when sector-specific governance exists, these both problems can be avoided. So if we ignore sector differences, we don't just build trust or fairness, we just scale mistakes faster and make them very hard to reverse.
No, I agree. We specific sectors do need more compliance than others for sure. Needs the right policies in place, etc. Again, trust is very universal, so to speak. But so is and so can the standards be, right? Because I understand that the risks and the damage within specific sectors are completely different versus the models, though, themselves. They can actually be universally verified, as in how they behave, how they perform, what they say, what they do, how they act, right, is very universally applicable. So you can actually have the correct monitoring, the correct oversight, like how you're saying, when it comes to all the different models and out there, from all the way from world models all the way to your standard LLM, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, Vasmitha. Like, we do need the correct governance and stuff in place for every specific sector. And then also at the same time, we do need the correct verification and monitoring at the same time, right? Which it can be universally applied and applicable. So I think it's a two-way street, so to speak. And I think if you can layer on them on top of each other, as I like to say, I like to call it a trust layer on top. But if you have the trust layer on top, and then you have multiple layers on top of that, including the governance layer, etc., that's kind of where you're allowed to have, or can allow, the trust within that specific sector. So I completely agree with you, Vasmitha. Do you want to respond? Did you want to respond, Vasmitha?
Yes, I truly agree with you. That's what I really wanted to say.
Oh, okay, no worries. I thought you was like, Russell, I don't like what you said. No, joking. Okay, let's go on to the next question now. So Beth, we're back over to you. Who decides what AI can and cannot do? This is a very interesting question. I'm very curious to hear your perspective of this, Beth, because I can go two ways with this, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this one actually I did have to think about a lot. I mean, I think ultimately the question is, where does the accountability lie, right? And if something is harmful, who's going to be responsible for it? And we all know it's not going to be the AI. So, so to really boil it down, it's going to have to be the human or the institution. And again, the human or institution that is operating the AI that caused any sort of problem, right? And I think part of that is really setting those boundaries, right? So what are you going to allow the AI to decide or not decide? Where are those limits and where are those boundaries? Because as agentic rolls out and the models are learning and the models are now capable of doing more on their own behalf, as we're even seeing with the law, right? So as that starts to evolve, you're really going to need to set up a lot of the practices, the system design, to make sure that the AI is operating within the constraints, as well as a lot of what you're doing, I think, with Just Verify, right, is the continuous monitoring and the continuous testing and validation that the model's not drifting from what your original intent had been. And so I do think ultimately it boils down to the human and the institution that is operating that model on behalf of a user. But you also
there's a big but.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Sorry, continue.
Go ahead.
No, it is very interesting. I do agree with you. It's the original person who created the AI that is accountable for that. I guess the question is, like, if we use robotics, for example, right? and then we have like these robots, walking around on their own, completely autonomously, and no longer even, let's say, actually I won't use an example, but let's just say another brand, right, is got their branding on that. It's like, oh, is it that brand that actually holds the accountability of that, or is it the autonomous robot itself because it's moving itself around and acting as like a human, right? So it's kind of like, it's kind of like you're in two minds. It's like how do you define that? I think that's kind of really the big question, and how we figure that out. But I do, in a nutshell, agree 100% with what you're saying, Beth. So, yeah.
But even in that situation, that robot is programmed with a set of instructions.
True.
And that originated with
whoever created the AI, correct? Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing, Beth.
Thank you.
Ona?
Hi. Very hard questions, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts. You've heard what everyone else has been saying, so we're back around to you now. So what is your thoughts on this question, and what are your thoughts so far?
Okay, first of all, I want to say that I heard really great things. Human in the loop, human out of the loop, human on the loop. There are 3 different models. Yeah, we really believe in that. This is still human in the loop. I'm so sorry, we are so near to human on the loop model. Sorry about that. There are huge risks. And what? I think the biggest risks right now, what we are talking about, generally in the past, we're just talking about, some raw data and synthetic data, but today we are talking about infrared data, and it means that these bullshitting AI applications can create with like a new Russell, new Honor, new Bat, new Faith, new Anisha, new Wasu, and it's just creating a new personality to back to you. So it means that the risk is not just about infrastructure level or algorithmic level risks. So I just want to say, I think, just a clarification about that. AI models basically working on linguistic and statistical models. So that is why we generally tend to blame AI applications about discriminations, bias, and that kind of problems.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, all of this data that we are feeding AI applications, we created all of them. We put these labels on these people because of their skin color, religion, minority groups, origins, whatever you want to say. We did all this bullshitting together, and today, AI applications just trying to mirroring it back to us. So we are just facing with our historical data, what we were collected together. So if you ask me about the liability perspective, who is responsible about AI abilities? You ask this question to a software engineer. A technical ability is a limit of software ability. But if you're asking this question from the logical and the legislation perspective, the limit is generally not just about the culture, not cultural or local understanding. It is about a centralization systems. Because just think about that. When any brand created and built a car, you can drive it all over the world. Nobody can say, oh, where is the wheel? Oh, I don't want to stop right now in the red, fun. I want to go. Nobody can say that. So we are really big confession about that. Just think about it. In the US, we don't want to do that. We want to put that rules. But in the EU, we are just talking about total different kind of trust and privacy and security issues. So it's just fragmented. So the problem is about it. But you know what? When I'm finishing my words, I think it was a perfect example for this one, because since last year, nearly, 10 months and something, we just argued about liability problems, because suddenly in the middle of Europe, in Paris AI Summit, J.D. Vane just criticized us, and he just mentioned that, do you know what? Are you feeling so democratized in the Europe because you're just trying to stop the innovation? Maybe you remember it. And suddenly, just in 2 days, they stepped back over about AI liability directive. And all year long, we just talk about that. Who is responsible about that kind of problems? We couldn't find the legal responsibility about that. So today they just try to clarify it because it's so openly. Yes, there is the United States of America, and today they're just trying to create United States of Europe, and they're calling it EU Inc. So it's a big platform wars right now. They are really so tend to get, semiconductors and create their new platforms and create their own very logical and very legitimate applications, and we will see. We will see together.
You do have a very good point, actually, and that kind of brings me on to like you've got the US, right, which doesn't have really any policies at all. You've got the EU, which has like virtually the most policies, and then you've got the UK and the model where it's just like, we'll just take sector specific, specific role, or add just a few things in, but we'll see how it goes, right? So it's kind of like,
We'll see.
so you've got that sort of thing across the board, and it's kind of like, where do you want to go to US where there's no policies at all? Do you want to be in the EU where there's loads of policies? Do you want to be in the UK which has minor policies? Or even other locations around the world? I mean, even Brazil are putting policies in place too. So it's kind of like, where do you want to go to have AI? And also, is all of these policies and governance, applied from around the world to what would... Anyway, I just saw the time. Thank you very much, Ona. Anisha, I do want to get around to you. I want to at least get around to everyone at least one more time. So, Anisha, let's head over to you now. Who is ultimately responsible when AI causes harm? We're talking about accountability just a minute ago. So what are your thoughts on that?
So when it comes to accountability, I think the person or the corporate who is actually building the AI system should be held responsible for it. So for example, when you're driving a self-driving car, it has certain AI features, right? So if that feature, certain AI feature stops working, the person who should be held responsible is the corporation. And then inside the corporation, it should when you actually work in a corporation, there's certain strata of the corporation that you should be held responsible, like the certain team or certain collectively as a team. So I think when it comes to that responsibility, the corporate or the person who is actually building the system should be held responsible, and also the person or corporation who is actually building the rules and the policies adhering to those rules should be held responsible for it. And in certain cases, the person who is actually using the AI system should be also made transparent about the disclosures that you have while you're using the system. For example, if you're using a self-driving car, you should be aware that there are certain problems that can arise when you're actually driving on the roads, and there are certain risks associated to it. But at the same time, the user should not be held responsible because he's just merely a user. So the only person who can be held responsible is the corporation and also the person who is actually making the rules, I feel.
I got a quick question, Anisha. We're running out of time, I know, but I do need to ask you this. What happens when, because Christopher mentioned it earlier, what happens when someone is building their own AI, right? As in, because the tools and the models and everything are getting democratized. So if you're building your own AI, right, does that mean then that if anyone uses your personal AI, that you're liable for that? Or do you see what I'm saying? What happens when we're all building our own individual AIs? We've got an individual Faith, Vasmifa, Beth, etc. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. So for example, if I am building my own AI agent and launching it to the public for them to use it, and it has some certain risks associated with it, I think the person who should be held responsible for anything, any damage or any harm is me at the end of the day, who is actually building the system. I mean, that's active on it. Yeah.
No, thank you very much for sharing that, Anisha, because that's something that I had even thought about from the last question. Is if you have your own and you build it yourself, because anyway, I went dive down the rabbit hole. Thank you very much, Anisha. Faith, over to you. Next question is for you. How can policy audit AI that constantly? How can we policy audit AI How can we audit AI that constantly evolves?
Thank you for that. I just wanted to contribute 1 minute before I move into that question on the previous one. I had this example of a hospital where the AI model, just for the thought for the audience, the AI model gives a misdiagnosis. So, and this causes safety issues, of course, to the patient who is ultimately responsible. I feel like it's a shared responsibility from the perspective of the hospital, also the developer. That's what I wanted to say. So to the question of, yeah, so that's my perspective. On the question of how the policy, how can policy audit AI that constantly evolves? I feel like policy audits AI that it's actually a continuous compliance from where I sit. And it's supposed to be, from now an audit perspective, it's supposed to be adaptive AI auditing. AI is evolving every single day. If you look at 2022 and GPT launched their first, and they were saying they're using data, trained for the last 2 years. Right now, we have moved past that. And if you're auditing, let's say, a model based on that, then you're not adding any value to the same. The same thing happens now to the policies. If from now an organization perspective, we keep our policies with this emerging technology and the speed that we are going with, then they will not serve the purpose, but they will actually be deemed redundant. So from where I sit, we move beyond static rule-based systems, definitely now to the, the dynamic aspect of it, whereby we also incorporate the self-learning frameworks when it comes now to the aspects of governance and policies. Because if we deploy AI, tools every single day, then these policies, we also need to look for a way of coming up with the AI tools that are automatically deploying these policies and frameworks, and they're going with the technology, and that's how I look at it from that perspective. Then the aspect of continuous monitoring, definitely instead of having these scheduled and periodic audits and for specific models, I think that also can have a very impact, and that will also go in hand with the constant evolving of the AI models. So that's the perspective that I look at it from.
Thank you very much, Sharon Faith. We're running out of time, so I have to jump in. Vasumita, last question for you, which is, how would public input influence AI governance?
I would actually like to start this by saying AI governance actually fails for just one simple reason, which is decisions are often made far from the people who actually feel the consequences. So, for example, there are two types of cultures, that is individualistic culture and a communist culture. And from individualistic culture, trust comes from personal rights, transparency, or the ability to challenge decisions. Like people can question that, can I appeal or can I opt out? But when it comes to an collectivist society, trust often comes from a shared benefit or a communal development, or it's a societal consensus. Like, was it developed with public agreement, or was it developed to make good, or to create welfare for the people in the society? And how do I say this?
What are you thinking of?
So,
Vasumita, no worries. We've run out of time. I'm sorry, I got to jump in, but thank you for sharing your thoughts, Vasumita. And on that note, I'm afraid we're going to have to round the roundtable up. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing their thoughts and opinions, and the whole back and forth. I liked it. I really did. Such interesting conversation as well. Also, audience, make sure you follow every single one of these panelists. Connect with them on their LinkedIn. That's like the main place that I normally tend to do. So definitely connect with each one of these lovely ladies on LinkedIn as well. And on that note, that is it for the roundtable discussion. And up next, we have Salvation with the next roundtable. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and our gather was well. Thank you very much. Bye.